I arrived here in Singapore yesterday evening, and this is the starting and ending point for a trip around maritime Southeast Asia. From here, I'll be travelling to Indonesia, spending a bit of time in northern Sumatra, briefly in Kuala Lumpur, and then on to the island of Borneo, mostly in the Malaysian area, and then to Brunei, and then ultimately back here in about 3 and a bit weeks' time. So I've got to head to the airport for my flight. I joined up with a guide and 10 other travellers, and yesterday we left Medan, the busy city, headed up through palm oil and coconut plantations here to the rainforest. We're going to be travelling around together as a group for the next week. Today though, we start an overnight trek into the forest where hopefully we'll see some interesting wildlife. The guides have found an orangutan, so we're just heading up to see if we can see it. We're currently coming up to the crater of Mount Sibayak, an active volcano that's not erupted for over 100 years. You can probably hear one of the fumaroles going off right now. Stinks of sulphur! This is the Sepiso waterfall that flows into Lake Toba. The lake is the largest in Indonesia and used to be the caldera of a supervolcano. And this is the island of Sumatra within Lake Toba. The island's huge, about the size of Singapore, and it's home to the Batak people, and you can see behind me some of their traditional houses. I've left Sumatra and Indonesia behind me now, and now got a day or so to explore Kuala Lumpur before heading to Borneo. KL's best known for the Petronas Towers, at 450 metres or so, until 2004, the tallest building in the world. This is the Kuala Lumpur Bird Park. It's a huge aviary. They call it free flight aviary. All the birds here are all in together. They're allowed to fly around, mate, and so on, all on their own. There is some feeding, so it's a limited amount of natural food here. So it's kind of semi-wild, semi-zoo. I'm trying to decide how I feel about this place. On one hand, the birds look happy and healthy. They've got loads of room for the most part, with a couple of exceptions. But on the other, they are in captivity. So I don't know. I've made it to the equatorial island of Borneo, the third largest island in the world. I'm hoping that the next 10 days will be the highlight of the entire trip as I make my way around the Malaysian state of Sabah in the north of the island. Today I'm having an explore around the city here in Kota Kinabalu, and tomorrow I'll be joining with another group and we'll be seeing a coffee production house, learning about coffee production in the area, and also visiting a community project based around pineapples. And from there, hopefully the pinnacle of the trip as we head into the rainforest itself. So according to my weather app on the phone, it's 36 degrees Celsius here, but because of the humidity, it has a feels like temperature of 46. So it really is quite stifling temperature. We're here on the Kinabatangan River, 350-mile long river running from the mountains to the Sulu Sea. And we're here to go out on a few cruises on the river looking for wildlife. We've already been out twice. We've seen many monkeys, proboscis monkeys. We've seen a few crocodiles, including a particularly large example. And we've even seen a glimpse of a pygmy elephant, quite a rare animal. We're heading out again later on to see what else we can see, but even here at the lodge, we've just seen a flying lemur on the tree with her baby. final trip out onto the river, we saw 12 Borneo pygmy elephants, including one that had just crossed the river. An absolutely amazing experience. And we've also just seen, on our way to our next stop, a group of 3 orangutan. They've been feeding, they've just stolen a jackfruit from the locals. So really quite an exciting wildlife experience. This is the Gomantong Caves, a huge cave of the limestone hills, and this place is famous for bird nest soup. This is where the swiftlets construct nests out of their saliva, and then when they're no longer used, they're harvested and made into soup, a Chinese delicacy, extremely expensive. There's a lot of cockroaches in here. Today's Conservation Day, we're starting off by seeing some orangutans in a rehabilitation centre, and then off to see some sun bears, and then we're going to see a bit of rainforest at canopy level on a boardwalk. Many of the orangutan here have been rescued. Most of the area here is unfenced, it's just open jungle. So most of the orangutans, once they've reached the point of independence, they can come and go as they please. There's food available for them, but they're encouraged to develop independence. The only bit that's actually fenced off is the nursery where the babies are. We've travelled out to Manukan Island, just off the main Borneo coastline. We're doing some snorkeling tomorrow, so it should be quite an interesting opportunity to see a different form of wildlife, see what the wildlife below the water. In the meantime, I'm exploring the one and only hiking trail on the island out to Sunset Point. I've now left behind the Malaysian state of Sabah, but I'm still on the island of Borneo here in Brunei. Brunei used to be an empire going back about 500 years or so, and included actually most of the areas that I've been to in Borneo so far. But today it's a smallish state, about 5 times the size of Hong Kong, only about half or less than 500,000 residents. Of course, famous for the Sultan of Brunei, one of the richest men in the world. The wealth here comes from oil and gas, and the place is really clean, well cared for, but it's very, very quiet. There's a few boats buzzing around, but there's not a lot of people here. I'm back in Singapore after 3 weeks touring around Southeast Asia. I've got 2 days here before I need to fly home. So first off, I think it's time for a hike. Singapore's known as being a city-state, but it actually has quite a lot of green space. And right in the middle of the island, in the hilly area, is what they call the Central Catchment Nature Reserve. It's where the rain falls to flow into the reservoirs to provide water for the city. They've got a network of hiking trails here, and also a treetop walkway, a suspension bridge built across one of the small valleys. And I've heard the monkeys like to hang out there, so that's where I'm heading now. Wow, there's a lot of monkeys here. I believe all the ones I've seen here are the long-tailed macaque, a species I've seen pretty much everywhere I've travelled the last few weeks. This is the cloud forest. It's a huge glass greenhouse, I believe one of the, if not the largest glass greenhouses in the world. They're air conditioning it to make it more suitable for higher elevation growth, which makes it a lot more pleasant than the high temperatures outside, particularly today. Well, that's it, the end of my trip. I'm off to the airport next. It's been a really great trip, lots of wildlife, some fantastic guides, some brilliant travelling companions. Everyone I've met has been super friendly, super helpful. Gonna miss everyone I've seen here. So that's it for now. All right, I'm not quite done yet. Even the airport's pretty spectacular. Look at this.